Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay. Replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Well, the Republicans just got a new campaign ad. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet culture, and more. We're going to start out with a truly wild interview that aired on one of the big Sunday shows, Fox News Sunday, which is hosted by Shannon Bream. And she had on her program one of the co-chairs of the National DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, this far-left organization and group that's gaining traction, electing members to Congress, kind of attempting to hijack the Democratic Party, and obviously very high-profile Democrats and stars like Zohran Mamdani, Bernie Sanders, AOC, all are affiliated with, or at least share, common cause in some way with this organization. Now, this interview was one of the most bonkers things I've ever seen because all Shannon Bream did, the Fox News host, was ask this woman about specific parts of the new DSA platform, Workers Deserve More, which is incredibly utopian/dystopian and it calls to rewrite the Constitution, abolish most of our government as we know it, and just totally transform American society in all sorts of ludicrous ways. But it led to this comical moment that I'm about to show you, which really is, it's just going to be burned into every campaign ad. This kind of stuff is just going to hang like an anchor around the neck of any remotely moderate or normal Democrat trying to get elected in this country, because their party is now welcoming in folks affiliated with this absolute lunatic organization. Let's watch this first clip from the interview that I'm sure is coming to your TV soon as the midterms draw closer in the form of a campaign ad.
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay. Replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons.
Okay.
Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, she seems normal. That seems like a normal agenda and not at all insane left-wing lunacy. There's so much here that we could get into, but they actually, when they say, we just want social democracy, that's not what this is. We just want to be like Europe. No, they want the government to take over the economy and run large corporations. They want to apparently just have open borders and have, millions of people flood into the country. What could possibly go wrong? Abolish our entire system of government as we know it. Rewrite the Constitution as in their platform. And frankly, they don't want to be stopped by checks and balances. That's what's so terrifying about this utopian/dystopian advocacy organization that is rising. Some of the biggest stars in the Democratic Party, again, are affiliated with this movement. Zohran, Bernie, AOC, potential future presidents in terms of AOC, or vice presidents, one of the most popular people in the entire Democratic Party in terms of Bernie Sanders, and a rising star in Zohran. And they're affiliated with this extremist organization that really actually wants, or associated with, that wants to destroy America as we know it. And you know what, to their credit, is not shy about it. That's what I appreciate about these DSA types. They say it with their chest. They're honest and upfront about it. They're not trying to backdoor it in by pretending, we just want to be like Europe. We just want social democracy. We just want more benefits and more taxes. They're like, no, actually, we want full socialist utopia. And it's funny because this co-chair, she just fits the stereotypes to a T. Like, I don't know. It got crazier, though. I want to read this tweet from the journalist Jesse Singal. He wrote on X, "Hey, Ms. Romer, it's John Bailey. I'm a producer at Fox News Sunday. Any interest in coming on this week? I don't know. What will we discuss? We'd like your help recording a campaign ad for every Republican candidate in every election for free. Yes, I'd love to." And it really is funny because I don't know if they realize that this is what they're doing, these DSA types, but because they, in one sense, they are finally getting their chance at political power. They're going to have multiple members of Congress that are headed there from New York, and I believe one from Colorado as well. They've got Zoran, and they're kind of infiltrating the Democratic Party, and the base of the party is moving slowly closer. But in the short term, their rise is only going to do one thing, and it's help Republicans. Because if this can be tied to the Democratic Party successfully as a matter of like optics and rhetoric and political strategy, they are cooked beyond belief. Every single plank of this strikes people as insane and radical because it is, and is going to alienate people who are dissatisfied, deeply dissatisfied with how the Trump administration is doing and the things that were supposed to get better and haven't, and the war in Iran, which is deeply unpopular. And so this is kind of like a Republican strategist's gift, like a gift to GOP strategists everywhere. This rising DSA movement is, yet they really do think they're doing their big one, and it's kind of adorable. Now we're going to Shannon Bream, to her credit, I don't know how she kept a straight face, because I could not. I would have actually potentially liked to interview someone from DSA or affiliated with DSA, but I couldn't keep a straight face during some of this, and she maintained her composure somehow. Let's watch this next part where they drill down into some of the specifics.
Abolish ICE. Would there be any enforcement of immigration laws, or with abolishing the border, we're not enforcing immigration laws, they go away?
Yeah, so again, this is part of this longer term plan, and part of it
But if you can get there.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get to the place where the U.S. is not destabilizing countries in order to mine them for resources,
What?
there will be significantly less migration.
That was not the question.
What do you say to
if
those,
we are
though,
not-
that would potentially destabilize the U.S.? Because there's only so much the economy can bear, and when you have a flood of people coming in, it might not work out economically, according to a lot of analyses, if you just open up the borders and there's no enforcement at all.
Well, we're not saying open the borders tomorrow. We're saying rebuild
But
an
eventually.
economy and a society that works for everyone. And the open borders is part of a longer-term international plan that involves us stopping destabilizing countries. Most people who are coming to this country are coming as economic refugees, and we destabilized their country. We did that.
That describes some people who have come to the United States, right? Or come through the southern border, or come here illegally, or tried to come here legally. They come from countries that the U.S. has meddled in or destabilized. And we could certainly talk about that. I might have a little bit of agreement on some of those issues with this person. But you're kind of kidding yourself if you think the only reason there's poverty and war and all sorts of different crises in parts of the world, around the world, that cause people to want to flee and possibly pour into the United States by the millions or hundreds of millions under open borders. You're kidding yourself if you're thinking the only cause of that is U.S. meddling. We are not, in fact, the only thing causing all the problems in the world. That is an absolutely delusional view. And notice how she never answered the question, and she kept saying, well, like, oh, but it's a long-term plan. That really doesn't make it that much better. That you want to do some crazy shit, but just do it in 5 to 10 years. Okay? You still want an open immigration system where people can flood your country, unlimited amounts, potentially unvetted. And then again, when they want to abolish ICE, like she's saying, some Democrats who are mainstream, more moderate Democrats, when they say abolish ICE, what they mean is, and replace it with another federal law enforcement agency to carry out immigration law, to arrest and deport people who are, murderers or criminals or what have you. Then there's the actual leftist hardcore types. They don't want any law enforcement at all, and they don't want any immigration enforcement. So what she's effectively saying is that illegal immigrants who are here, who are criminals, murderers, robbing people, what have you, she does not want any law enforcement agency to go after them and get them out of our country. That is batshit insane. Whether you have criticisms of ICE or not, whether you want it to be heavily reformed and you think it's out of control in a lot of ways right now, as I do, that is a very different thing than calling to abolish it and just have this utopian wild world where we'll all just come together in kumbaya. I mean, these people sound so incredibly naive every time they speak about literally any subject. It's genuinely remarkable. I mean, we'll come to this as well. She also, of course, wants to have no prisons and no crime. And once we give free everything to everybody, nobody will hurt each other or do bad things. And we'll all just be in kumbaya. It's like, in one hand, it makes them more sympathetic because you're like, oh, you sweet summer child, you know not what you say or seek. But on the other hand, it's more sinister because, frankly, most of the most horrific societies in history have come from people who thought they were bringing about a utopian society. And if you go and look actually at a place like the Soviet Union, which was, an economic catastrophe and a nightmare for human freedom, if you go and look at their constitution, it promised all sorts of rights. It guaranteed all sorts of utopian, amazing sounding things. Frankly, there'd be a lot of overlap between the Constitution of the Soviet Union and the DSA platform, and yet it led to misery and mass death and horror. And so it's almost like your intentions really aren't worth anything, actually, when the outcome and effects of them are so sinister. But it is crazy that this is at all mainstream. I mean, Zoran, who's one of the most popular political figures in the country right now, is literally affiliated. He is DSA, and this is what they stand for. That's crazy. I don't know how that is not a national scandal or is at all considered within the realms of normalcy in American politics. Anyway, though, we're also going to look at a clip where the the wonderful DSA co-chair who just loves to give free content to Republican strategists everywhere, where she spoke about the criminal justice system and abolishing all police. Let's watch.
So if we talk about abolishing prisons, then does that make society better? I mean, is there anybody that should be incarcerated? I mean, rapists, child predators, murderers?
Yeah, so the long-term plan, when we think about most people who are in prison, they are mostly in prison for crimes of poverty.
No.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the really,
Yeah,
like the
I hear
murders
you.
and rapists of the
When
world.
so when we get rid of this need for crimes of poverty to exist, when we get rid of that destabilizing force that creates so many people who are living in desperate situations and doing desperate things, that brings those numbers down to very small numbers, and then we can collectively decide what we do with those
really
people.
doesn't.
I suspect it won't look like the prison system as we know it today.
Okay, but you do think some people need to be locked away from society?
Some people are not able to be functional members of society. That's
Okay.
true. But what does that look like to keep the rest of us safe? We're talking about safety. We're not talking about punishment. We're talking about making sure that we're safe, everybody's safe, everybody maintains their dignity, and everybody maintains their humanity.
I actually am talking about punishment for rapists and murderers and pedophiles. She's like, well, we'll figure out what to do with them after we cured poverty, and so there's no more crimes. Oh, Miss Girl here has lost her mind. How is this a serious organization? This is the rising movement inside the Democratic Party, the DSA, and they actually want to move towards abolishing prisons. And I'm sorry, the idea that just, most crime is just because, first of all, the idea that they would be curing poverty is not true whatsoever. They would cause an economic catastrophe with all the crazy stuff they want to do. But even then, you still have a huge swath of crimes that are not directly related to poverty or aren't done by poor people. That's the craziest thing, is this assumption that, most of these crimes would stop if people weren't in poverty, ignores the fact that a lot of them are not actually below the poverty line who are committing this and are not, stealing bread the bread is not locked up at CVS. Okay? It's the makeup and electronics and others. It's like, I don't even almost know how to discuss something like this because it's so far beyond the realm of serious thought or debate or discussion. And yet they double down on this in their platform. You would think the DSA having kind of a moment and coming into the mainstream would maybe like water down or walk away from some of its craziest stuff, like abolish prisons, like abolish police. Nope. They're like, hold my beer. And she's like, well, long term, we'll just figure out what to do with them. Some people can't be functioning members of society. Yeah, it's you, actually. Clearly, because you want utopia, dystopia with no prisons, no borders, government control of the entire economy, and to destroy the American Constitution and rewrite it from scratch in a way that gives, unbridled power to the whims of the majority or the tyranny of the majority, as it may be. And of course, this woman herself, Megan, what's her last name? Megan Romer, is a member of one of the most radical caucuses inside the DSA. Because even within the DSA, there are divisions, and she is part of one of the more extreme subgroups of DSA. And yikes! I don't understand what these people think they're doing other than once again fulfilling the wildest dreams of every Republican strategist out there and isolating themselves from any sane American, regardless of political persuasion. Other than that, though, they're doing amazing. I don't know, guys. Am I losing my mind? Please let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't yet. Do hit the like button, and do consider becoming a channel member here on YouTube if you're able to support me. If you just call out one side or just pander to one side, that's the best business model, but I call out the far left and the far right. And unfortunately, that's not always the best business model, and it helps me out when you guys support me by hitting the join button or clicking the link in the pinned comment to become a channel member. With that, guys, we'll leave it there for this one and be back with more real soon.